Nobody understands God because God is the most paradoxical shit that you could ever even think of. As a human being, we have a collective consciousness, and our consciousness is a spawn of the greater consciousness that is God. But even talking about God creates separation between you and God. Even pondering the collective consciousness, that doesn't bring you closer to God or understanding God. You're already one with God. You can't get any closer to God. But thinking about the shit and putting a certain process to it, putting an order to it, that kind of brings you into your own beliefs. God is the product of infinity. God is the product of all things you could ever even dream, imagine, whatever. All of those things are inside of God. God is all encompassing, right? Naturally, as human beings, our consciousness is limited. It's a fractalized aspect of what we perceive as God. So our consciousness is limited. And even God itself, it has to separate itself from infinity to a degree to understand infinity. So us, with a human consciousness who are so far removed from God, we cannot perceive God because God is the union of everything and nothing. God is the union of polar opposites. Every single opposite of thing that you can imagine, that is God. And God is both things, not just one of the things, right? A big reason why we can't understand God as humans is because we put our own humanity, we put our own human psyche onto God. We project ourselves onto God. And that's kind of valid until you get to a certain point. Studying humans can help you understand a lot about God, but at a certain point, you have to go beyond humans. You cannot personify God. God is not a man, a woman. God is not, even a entity. God is really a being. And when I say being, I mean being loosely. I mean being in the sense that God can be. At the very least, God can be. God is not a being necessarily. And that's another reason why humans cannot comprehend God. We can't comprehend a presence that is not an entity. We cannot comprehend a presence that is not a being, just like humans, right? As humans, we see our progression from lower consciousness beings to higher consciousness beings, and we attribute that to God, which is valid. But then we start to associate the things that got us from lower consciousness to higher consciousness with God, and that is not necessarily the most valid thing to do, right? A thing that has brought us from lower consciousness to higher consciousness is morality, being able to work together as humans and use each other to grow our own minds, right? That has been the sole aspect of our being that has pushed our consciousness so far. But you cannot project human morality and things that have helped humans onto God. Things like being benevolent, things like loving your neighbor and preparing for tomorrow, you know what I'm saying? Not being super impulsive. You can't necessarily project those things onto God. Those are just the things that evolve human consciousness, right? But God is the complete being. So what evolves our smaller consciousness into a greater consciousness does not really apply to the being who is already fulfilled, is already reached this point. God is a fully realized being. So to understand God, we kind of have to reverse engineer ourselves, not look at ourselves and be like one to one. Okay, this is God. I see myself and that is God. We kind of have to reverse engineer as well, right? And that's not something that humans do. We don't look at the opposite of ourselves and be like, oh, that's God. We don't see wild animals and be like, damn, that's God. We don't see evil in the world and be like, that was God. We see evil and we scoff. We be like, damn, that was terrible. Or we see, animals, we're like, oh, they're dirty. They're animals. And the truth is, everything is God. You know what I'm saying? If you follow me, you know this. This is really just a recap for you. But if you're new here, my name is Professor X. We talk about a bunch of spiritual, metaphysical, and holistic health concepts. But in today's video, we're pondering God, right? One of the best ways to understand God is to figure out what God is not, right? And humans kind of do that, but not really. Like I said, we see all of these things of the world and they bring us discomfort and we're like, oh, that's not of God, because we have this romanticized version of God where God is just embodies all the things that are good. God embodies all the things that are peaceful, that are comfortable. But truth be told, God is, like I said, the accumulation of all things. God is all encompassing. So if I want to truly tap in with God, I have to learn how to exist in the discomfort, exist in the malpractice, exist in the wrongdoings, you know what I'm saying? And honor that shit too. You know what I'm saying? Like me, a big thing that has helped me on my spiritual journey is loving me. Even when I do bad shit, even when I do wrong shit, I accept myself to the highest degree. So much so that sometimes it even drives me to do more bad shit because I just accept myself so much. You know what I'm saying? But true balance is when you look at yourself, look at the things that you don't want to do anymore, and then you stop doing them. But ultimately, you don't want to overly separate yourself from certain things. You know, like even though I live my life a certain way, you know, I'm vegan, I don't completely scoff at people who eat meat or the presence of meat in society. I don't scoff at serial killers, even though I'm a very sane person. You know, these things are sick to a human, but at the end of the day, it's just an aspect of sorts that want it to be manifested. You know what I'm saying? I want it to be experienced. That being said, if you really want to advance your consciousness, you have to learn how to accept these things for what they are. They're just an aspect of creation. And in creation, we deal with all sorts of shit, not just the good and benevolent, happy things. We deal with the sorrow, the depression, the anger, the violence, you know? Ultimately, I believe that humans are on track to understanding God. We're getting there, but it's going to take a lot of deconstruction because of the religious age. The religious age has taught us so much about how perfect and, you know, conceptual God can be, this idealized version, which is honestly real. It's very real. That's an aspect of creation that you can experience today. But that's not everything, you know? And to get further into our spiritual beliefs, to get further into, you know, I guess duality, as humans, we would have to deconstruct so much of this. God is a man, God is divine, God is perfect, God is all loving, all in, like, God is not inherently any of those things. I'm not gonna lie. God is all loving until you get punished. Then it's like, oh, to close out the video, I think that the thing that will help humans understand God the most in the next like 1,000 years is observing nature. That is the most simplest way to understand God, right? Not in a discriminatory way, not going, okay, those monkeys over there that are fighting each other, they're not of God. But the dolphins over there that swim in unison and they're coexisting happily and peacefully, they're of God. Like, not doing that. That's stupid. You feel me? God is the jaguar that eats the gazelle. I don't know if jaguars eat gazelles, but you know, God is the predator that kills its prey. You know, God is the person who kills themselves. God, God is everything. You know, we can't keep trying to put God in this box and even put ourselves in certain boxes. Oh, I'm spiritual, I'm this, I'm that. You know, we can't keep doing that shit and expect any true lasting spiritual growth and wisdom. That's pretty much it for today's video. It was a really short one. I'm gonna try and do more short videos like this. Some of my videos be like 20 minutes long, but topics like this are very simple, right? So I just want to come, say what I need to say, and get off. My name is Professor X. Thank you for watching, and I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Peace.